All right, awesome. Well, we're going to wait for Angela, but I'm going to get started with you, Liz, and she'll join us as she jumps on here. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Our meeting today is just hearing some strategies. What's causing people to move forward at this time? And here's the overall theme. Our top people are thriving right now, right? They're doing well. They're really moving forward. We'll see you in a little bit, Dale. They're really moving forward, and I just continuing going back to capturing, okay, what are top agents doing at this time, really listening to strategies. That way it'll gravitate to people, and they can really move forward in their business. So Liz, easiest question for everybody that doesn't know you, tell us your story a little bit. Give us the brief version of Liz.
The brief version of Liz. So I got my license 13 years ago, broker's license in 2013. Started with Andy and have, stayed with, the St. Jeans for 13 years. I've left for briefly, but y'all always bring me back. So, and I think with as far as how I got into real estate, my parents have always kind of been in real estate without me even knowing it. For those of you that don't know, I'm originally from LA. And even back then, when my parents were in LA, they were fixing houses, buying houses and fixing houses. And then came to Texas for college in '96. And then my parents followed a year after. And we've just been, without my even knowing it, was involved in real estate since I was a kid. My parents would buy, fix, flip, or keep them as rentals. So it just kind of naturally progressed into me doing that same thing, but also, having my own business of real estate. So.
Yeah. Okay. Angela, good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. We give a little bit. We got filler time. Hey,
I'm in Zoom purgatory.
Let me in.
Right. I was like, what's wrong? I can't see anybody and nobody can see me.
Well, I finish one call and every time I'm like, how do I log into this account again? And I go scrambling.
Right.
Yeah, I have made sure Barbara had to log in right in front of me. All right, Angela, tell us a little bit, for people who don't know you, give them a little glimpse of you. Give us your story before and why real estate.
Gotcha. So before real estate, I was an electrical engineer. I used to work for Texas Instruments. I got my real estate license right out of college because I wanted to invest in real estate. It was suggested by a friend of mine's mom who was a broker. I was a single female, and on the weekends, because I was like super nerd, super geek, on Fridays and Friday nights, I would spend at Best Buy looking at all the latest electronics. And then on Saturdays, I would drive around looking at properties, just like for fun. That was my entertainment. And she was like, you're always looking at houses. Why don't you get a real estate license? And I was like, why would I do that? What would I do with that? And she was like, well, you can buy property. And when you buy property, you'll earn a commission. And so a little light bulb went off. I was like, ka-ching, that sounds like a cool idea. So I got my license never intending for it to become a career. For me, it was a hobby. It was something I enjoyed doing. It was my escape from my day job. And what I found is 4 years in, the income that I was earning just by helping friends and people that I knew part-time rivaled what I was making as an engineer. And I enjoyed this so much more. So I said, why not go ahead and quit and see how it goes? And that was in 2002.
Okay. All right. Good story. So both of you have an investment background, I would say, is, real estate. You pride yourselves on being very thorough through contracts and pieces as well, and knowing the market. So I want to make sure that our group hears that today. You guys, you know what you're doing. You do it at a high level. And you follow through in making sure it's done right. Okay, before we jump into real estate, Angela, I would love for you as a as a Black leader in our company, I would love for you just to share, to tell us your perspective with everything that's going on with the racism and the tension is, just to share a little bit what's on your heart.
Yeah, well, it's 2020 has been very heavy. So between us being quarantined and the economy, and then for this happen, it just felt very, very overwhelming, very heavy. Um, and at the same time, it feels historic. So you always hear people say, or I have heard people who say, oh, I wish I'd been alive during the civil rights movement in the 60s, or, I wish I'd had an opportunity to be a part of that movement. And I'm like, it's happening again. You do have the opportunity. And so I'm in somewhat of amazement that something finally occurred that served as the catalyst for people to really hear what African Americans and Black males specifically have been experiencing for decades. And for me personally, part of how I even ended up in Texas is it was a race-based decision, because the environment that I'd been in Missouri, I was kind of, it's funny because I recently posted I did a post yesterday on an article that I read about being the token Black friend, and the expose that the guy did was incredible, very, very well written. And I could relate to that because I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, went to a predominantly white school, and even attended a white church. So I was used to being the only. I chose to come to Texas because I was tired of being the only. And Prairie View A&M, once I found out it was a HBCU, or historically Black college or university, that had a very strong engineering program, I viewed it as, this is my opportunity to be in an environment where I don't have to shift. I don't have to adjust. I don't have to rein in. I don't have to make other people around me feel comfortable because of whatever. I can just be. And so that's how I ended up here. And so I think what's happening is, I think it's wonderful. I hate that it came about the way that it came about. However, I feel so much gratitude and appreciation to George Floyd, to his family, because to me, it's like he's become a Rosa Parks for my generation. And I'm extremely optimistic that we will see real change beyond just, it starts with having the conversation. That's the first step. And then the next step after that becomes changed behavior as it relates to education, economics, employment, businesses, funding, and of course, laws and political inroads. So that's kind of my take on all of this. It feels somewhat like a breath of fresh air. And then at the same time, there's still a part of me that is, you just question, is this just kind of the season right now? And when something else happens and this blows over, will everything go back to business as usual? So that's the concern, that hopefully that doesn't happen.
So what's the challenge to the group? What's your message?
My message to the group is to really, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection myself, to self-reflect, question everything that you thought you believed and why you believed it, and how would you know if it wasn't true? That is my encouragement, because, the people that I grew up around, they'd swear, forwards, backwards, upside down, Angela, we're not racist. but they couldn't see their unconscious bias. But I could feel it and I experienced it. So that's my encouragement to the group. We all have it. I have unconscious bias. We all have it. It's human nature. You're taking in, your brain takes in 9 million different pieces of information at a time, and it can only really process about 40. So it filters everything out. We have stereotypes and biases to help us process, because it's part of human nature. So you have to make a conscious effort to check that, to question it, and to not just, oh, I'm not this, or, because someone doesn't agree with you. The biggest thing that I don't understand about a lot of this is where the anger, like, I don't get mad at people because they don't agree with me. They just don't agree with me. You have the right not to agree. I don't have to be angry about it. And so to me, that's what becomes dangerous.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Liz, any thoughts or comments on this topic?
I think for me, like I said, I'm from LA. And so I lived in South Central. I was living in South Central for the 92 riots. And, with Rodney King and when all that happened. And even back then, to me, it was an amazing movement to watch and to be right in the middle of, and it makes me sad that we have to, they say that history repeats itself, right? And I wish this didn't have to repeat itself. I wish we would just learn our lesson, learn that, like Angela said, that, just be conscious of the potential biases that you may have and reflect on them, and just vow to do better, to be better. And it was crazy back then to watch, and to experience, because I was, just like here, we're right in the middle of it, of the movement and everything that was going on. And I just wish we didn't have to have this lesson be repeated over and over. We're like stubborn kids, like when you put your hand on a hot stove, you learn the first time. Why do we have to keep putting our hand on the hot stove?
Okay.
But I think what Angela said is perfect. Just reflect on the potential, on the bias that you may have, and really read into that, because there's probably something there. So
yeah, we all come with it. Well, I appreciate you sharing it, and yet as a leader of the office is my I'd say responsibility is to open up the dialogue for the conversation to occur is number one, and yet to reflect it. And yet I think our office there's great leadership that shows up in diversity. If you listen to the HAR conversation that occurred on Monday, right, that were invited, two of our leaders, LaDonna Parker, Mike Wong, and then a former Keller Williams agent who was here, but he moved up north, Danny Garcia, all came from this office. So they're leaders that come from this and voicing their opinion. So, and yet, can we get better? Absolutely. We can certainly get better.
One thing I will say is that, and I told Keith, after the team meeting
last week.
Yeah,
last week.
I was so grateful, and I'm so grateful to the office that we have a safe space, right? Because a lot of people are going to have questions that we don't know how to ask, that we don't know how to bring up. How do we even talk about it? How do we bring it up? And I think I love our office for creating a space where people who don't know how to ask a question, like I know that I can go to Angela and ask her any question, and I'm comfortable enough with Angela to ask her any sort of question that I may have, but not everybody may necessarily have that comfort level. And I appreciate the office for creating a space where we can, where it's okay, no judgment, no, it's a safe space. Let's just talk about it, because that's how change really begins, is let's talk about it. Let's ask questions and be comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the first step, right? Is recognizing and having the conversation. And I do hear stories over and over again. I was on a panel today with leadership, and a African American leader is talking about the simple technique of, hey, go door knock, right? This agent lives in Lakeway in Austin, and goes, that's not a technique that I can use.
Right.
And your mind, some of our leaders go, man, I didn't even think of that. Yet we've heard stories, right, of that occurring. So that's things that we have to recognize and listen to people going, okay, let me give you my perspective on that. That's why the dialogue occurs, because we do talk about, hey, what's successful in lead generating and what works. Go door knock, and you go, I ain't going door knocking. And here's why. We go, oh, okay. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit and go into lead generating, right? And so you guys are you're driving in a business right now, and you're growing your business. Tell us what strategies that you're using right now that's giving you success. Angela, you ready?
Sure.
Okay, tell us.
Nothing has really changed for me. I think the difference in quarantine is I just chose not to participate. Like, I viewed the fact that everybody was going to be home as, this is my time to win. Like, let's go get it. And I think also it helped me to focus, because there was no place else for me to go. Like, I could only leave the house when I said, oh, I'm gonna go, I got some real estate stuff I need to go do. I was like, I'm an essential business. That was the only way I could get out the house. Versus in a non-quarantined environment, I find a whole bunch of other stuff to do that, doesn't necessarily lead to productive business. So yes, distractions. So all my distractions were gone. I had no choice other than going to the grocery store. I had no reason to leave my house but real estate. And I just...
What did that cause you to do? What did you do specifically that gave you some opportunity during this time?
I just talked to people, reaching out and, hey, checking in. How are you doing? A lot of the business I had, honestly, during this time were nurtures that had already been happening.
Yeah.
It's just depending on what my mindset is. I let some business just kind of, I don't want to say fall away, but it's kind of true. You miss out on opportunity depending on everything you've got going in your life. Well, I had nothing else to do but real estate. It's kind of what happened for me personally. However, I will say the behavior that I've been consistent in cultivating the entire time I've been in real estate, and it's the same thing I tell new agents: if you take care of people and keep in contact with people, provide value to people, and are present and come to mind when they're ready to do something, you will get business. I think the challenge is a lot of people don't keep in contact very well, and they don't have a systematic way of staying in contact. And they don't track, my database is my business, and there's a lot in there. So when I do reach out to someone, I can say, hey, how did your grandmother's surgery go? It may have been a year that I saw that their grandmother was going to be having surgery, but because that note is in there and I ask, oh, your grandmother had surgery a year ago, how's she been doing? It causes connection, and people feel that they matter. Angela sees me. I'm not just a transaction or a commission to her. And that is what keeps my business going, because they tell other people. It's the experience that you create.
Yeah. Well, it's the servant heart, right? It's People don't care how much you care until they know you care. We've heard all those sayings, but that's what's coming out. And you're knowledgeable of what's going on. So when they
Yes.
ask you about real estate, you know.
Yes. Well, and literally before I got ready to do this call, I had a T-shirt on that said, I get paid to solve problems. And that's the truth. That's what we do. We solve people's problems. And I think because I have the heart of a teacher, I talk to a lot of people who I'm not going to be able to help. However, I educate them. Here's your process. Here's what needs to happen. Here's why I can't help you. And I don't know who else you talked to prior to this, but someone should have told you. And I'm amazed at the number of people who tell me, you know, I've talked to 2, 3 other agents. No one told me what you're telling me, and I appreciate it. And they send me business, even though I can't do any business with them. So I think that's important.
You tell them the truth, right? I mean,
you will
tell
get the
them.
truth from me, whether you agree with it. Sometimes you
I
may
would
not
say
even
that
like
would be a great statement about both of you. You will hear the truth from some of you. Both
yeah,
of you.
you might not like it. You know,
Yeah.
I've had to tell clients I'm not a yes girl. I'm not that girl.
Yeah.
So you're gonna know what I say. I'm still gonna do what you tell me to do because you hired me, but you're gonna know that I'm doing it against my own advice. This is your decision, and I don't agree with it. But we're gonna go with what you said
Okay.
and see how that works out.
Awesome. All right, Liz, what strategies, opportunities are you finding right now?
One thing that I really dug into while I was, you know, stuck at home, was digging into old leads that I thought were dead, or, I mean, there's so many of them. And so just a quick text, a quick call. Hey, are you still, you know, how are you doing? Months ago we talked, and yada yada, or whatever the case may be. But old leads, and trying to revive some old stuff that I thought, you know, could be dead. You know, I had a lot of a lot of clients kind of pump the brakes on what they had going on at the, you know, if they were in the midst of a listing or buying or something like that. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to educate them as much as I can on what's going on, but it's their choice if they still choose to hold off on what they're doing. So let me find something else that I can focus my energies on. And so old leads, old stuff is, you know, I've spent a significant amount of time going through old, I mean, I'm talking about like years. I went back as far as 3 years, looking at leads that were in my, you know, my pipeline or my database or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was only, and some have been revived. You know, I have Brandon on my team, and so, you know, it's consistently, hey, call this person, call this person, call this person, and we're finding people who, at the very least, what we're doing is cleaning up our database, because we have found like 1 or 2 that bought, and even though that's like a
imagine that. You're right. Yeah.
But nonetheless, at the very least, you know, we're updating the database, we're cleaning it up, and I know there's business in there that we're going to close on within the next, you know, 90 to 120 days. So that was a big thing for me, because like Angela said, I am a person that has to be in the office, right? That is where I am most productive. So this whole quarantine thing was challenging for me. I love my kids and I love my husband, but well, that was a lot of togetherness. I love being in my office. I love my office. You guys know that. You see me, I come to the office and I go to my corner and shut the door and I work, because that's where I'm most productive.
Yeah.
So it was tough. That part was tough. So I had to find something that was time consuming. And like Angela said, that like there was no other distraction, you know, to say, oh, I'm not going to focus on the old leads. I'm going to focus on new ones, you know, or whatever my normal routine is. No, ma'am, you don't have an option. Let's go back 3 years and see what we can find. So I really tried to focus on old stuff, reviving old leads. So.
Okay. But I'm hearing database is key in both of you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, let's switch gears and go. What kind of challenges? What challenges are you seeing right now?
Well, I think public perception. Um,
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, it's public perception. And it's why I limit my intake of the news significantly. Like, you know, the and this is just stepping back 1 second to something we already talked about, but that 60,000 person protest that took place in Houston at Discovery Green, I would have loved to have been there and taken my son, because to me that was a historic moment. I didn't even know it was occurring because I was that disconnected from the news. And social media as well, to a degree. So for me, it's that tunnel vision of just focus. And so what I'm in my newsletter that I send out to people, I have emails that I send regularly to clients. I'm attempting to shape the story for them of, hey, this is how good this is. And I had a lot of people also who reached out to me, of course, when they saw interest rates had went to zero, the federal funds rate, they thought, oh, mortgage loans are at zero. I need to refinance, or now's a great time to buy my house. So you had to help educate them and explain. And I don't mind. I appreciate, like I've kind of trained my clients. Anytime you hear something and you want to check, am I on the right track? Call me. Because I know they're all watching the news regardless, even if I don't. So I would say the biggest challenge is public perception as it relates to sellers. For buyers right now, I have buyers coming out of everywhere, especially my investors. And they're just like, Angela, what's the timing? Do we go now, or should we wait and see what the fallout's going to be from, all these people not being at work for months, and will we see, an influx of foreclosures and that kind of thing. So I'm having those conversations as well. I think the other big challenge is inventory. Again, on the buyer side, there just aren't enough houses out there to go around. And so it's created, again, another opportunity to call sellers, say, hey, hey, we talked end of last year. It wasn't the greatest time then. However, things have changed. I'm looking for listings. There are buyers, who are looking for properties, and there's not enough out there. You might want to rethink this. So that to me is the biggest challenge right now, is inventory and public perception, thinking it's worse than it is.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there's so much. I mean, as far as information from the news, from social media, it's like a fire hose coming at you, and you don't know, one moment it's one story and then another it's another. And so the public takes all that in, and then it's our job. And there's objection handlers, and, we've learned how to deal with certain objections, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to, they're not gonna. They're not. And I focus more on listings. And so there's been a lot more hesitation from my sellers, because something as simple as, I don't want someone in my house that might have the virus.
Right.
They don't care that it's going to take them, 3, 4, 5 months that they'll have to stay in that house. They don't want to risk the potential of bringing someone who is unhealthy, because no matter, we can put booties, we can put gloves, we can put hand sanitizer, we can put masks, we can do all that, but that doesn't mean that someone's going to actually use
it all,
come in, or when they come in. And then do we really put our sellers are like, I don't want to put my house, my family, my kids, at risk, myself at risk. So I've had a lot of, that's the biggest challenge for me is, and I am not one, I will present the information, but that's one thing I've learned over the course of my career is don't push them. Mm-hmm. Don't push them, don't push them, don't push them, because they will remember that you pushed them, and they're not, and that doesn't go away. They'll equally remember, you know what, Liz, I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, this is not the time, I'm not going to do it, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, you know what, no problem, I understand. If there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. 99% of the time, they come back to me
Come back.
because they remembered that I was understanding. I was empathetic. I was, it's okay. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready. And at that point, we can talk about it. But for me, that's been the biggest challenge is, sellers wanting to, the only sellers that I've had that have pulled the trigger are ones that had like a job transfer or, like there wasn't an option. They had to go. But ones that had a flexibility, a lot of those have waited, and it's great for the pipeline, and I am seeing some of them start to more comfortable now. So I have had this last week, especially a few of my sellers say, okay, I think it's starting to get a little bit better. Let's start to open up that conversation again and see what that will look like.
Yeah. Okay. So answer the question. The question by Mark was, so what's the answer to it? Do you think your investors should pull the trigger or wait for the fallout? So just give us what's going to happen with the market. Yes, we understand we have a built up demand of buyers. We have a lack of inventory, but what does this look like moving forward?
Yeah. So for me personally, I've had the conversation with multiple investors, and it depends on their profile. The answer's not the same for everyone. I've got some of my investors who have a gang load of cash. Like they sold businesses, they've got a lot of money. So for them, we're always buying. If the right opportunity comes along, we're always buying. I've got other investors who, hey, this is all I've got. Like I have to win. If this doesn't work, I just lost my life savings. Well, with someone like that, I'm going to give them a totally different set of advice than I give the person who's got a windfall, who, their windfall might be earning them 1%, 2%. That's a totally different risk tolerance. So it's not a blanket answer. I do believe that I told my investors, I said, it's too soon. We haven't seen any fallout from any of this yet. Because a lot of people are still in forbearance. And even the ones that are starting to go back to work and coming out of forbearance, the mortgage companies are still being pretty lenient. Like I've seen offers up to 12 months of no payments. So they're working with this situation and giving people a lot of flexibility, to where I don't think we have seen any of the, foreclosure, loss mitigation, short sale type situations that will come back as a result of this. That being said, I have a listing I'm about to take. Matter of fact, I have 5 listings in my pipeline that I'm about to take. I think of the 5, 3 of them are investors, 2 of them are actual homeowners. But one of them is a short sale that it's crazy. An HOA, someone went to the foreclosure auction and bought the property on an HOA foreclosure who didn't know what they were doing. And it was subject to a first lien, which is about to wipe them out. So when it comes to investing, I say it's a great market to serve. That is where a lot of my business comes from. And I love it because I get repeat. You want to make sure that you get yourself educated, be on the Bigger Pockets forum, listen, read the books that Gary Keller recommends on investing, really understand investing if you're going to advise clients so that you're not setting people up for disaster, would be mine.
Okay. Liz, what's your take on the market? What are we moving what direction is it moving into?
I think that I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Angela said for investing. I agree with her. I don't think we're not even close to seeing the fallout yet. I've seen the trickles that we've seen are people that were in trouble before COVID hit. So I think we'll start to begin to see it probably at the end of the year or the beginning of next. That's when I truly believe that we'll really start to see the fallout. As far as the the market for me, I think now that on the listing side, now that the people are starting to feel more comfortable, it's funny because as restrictions are lifted, I get more phone calls. Like the phase one, you know, that certain things were opened up, you know, I got phone calls. Phase two, I got more phone calls. And, you know, so people are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. But as for buyers, we just need more houses.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone you know, in the past, I've had to do where I'll send out letters that are, you know, to a particular neighborhood, like the Tony DeSello letters that we used to see in bold, right? Hey, I have a buyer that's looking for this. I hadn't had to do that in a while, but
Yeah.
I had, you know, Lauren doing some letters for me just yesterday with that exact message. I have a buyer who's looking for this in your neighborhood.
Right.
Do you want to sell, or do you know somebody who wants to sell? So, and I know that we'll have to do that some more until we get more inventory
Right.
on the market. But
Are you working with any buyers who think they can get a deal right now, and you got to tell them reality is not just a deal, you're going to have a multiple offer situation.
Yeah, but it's all about expectations. You know, they're going to have that perception. There was actually one of the buyers that I'm sending out letters for, he lost out on a house because he thought he was going to get a deal. And I told him, you know, I don't recommend that you do this. You're my client, so I'm going to do what you asked me to, but I don't recommend that you come in with an offer this low. And he lost the house because they ended up in multiple offers. And now he's like, okay, I'm ready. Now I'm ready. And I always say, you know, when you have buyers that believe they can lowball, they got to lose one. They got to lose at least one. So in my mind, I set the expectation for myself. Okay, he thinks he can lowball. I'm going to tell him not to, but I know that I'm going to have to submit at least one offer and him lose it before he'll learn.
Yeah.
I always say I can show you better than I can tell you.
Exactly. That's true. And that is very true. So, I'm not, you know, I am not in any way concerned about real estate as a whole. People always have to live somewhere. And for me, you know, as an investor myself, I am excited. I mean, I'm getting ready. You know, hubby and I we've got, you know, we're preparing ourselves to pick up, you know, some properties. You know, we have properties, but to pick up some more properties because there will be opportunity. So,
all right, question. Kimbra was, maybe you guys give us perspective. She's talking about a crazy open house where they had so many people, 22, controlling it. Have you guys done any open houses? What's your perspective on open houses?
I haven't done open houses, but what I do, like and this wasn't even it wasn't even a house for sale. This is a rental, but I had so many people contacting me wanting to see it. And I just let them know we're doing 15-minute showings. And so for me, it was kind of the same way you do an open house. I'm going to be here for an hour or an hour and a half, whatever it was.
You want to see it, you come now.
You're coming during this time slot. But I told people, I gave them a list of things that they had to do in advance in order to get a time slot. And they were told, if you don't have a mask, you're not coming in. If you bring children with you, you're not coming in. You can have one person with you, you and one other person, that's it. Otherwise, you're not coming in. So I gave people all what my restrictions and requirements were ahead of time. And then they had to, once they sent me their ID in advance, then I would give them their time slot. I'd say, okay, you're for this 15 minutes. And that worked very well. And I only had to do that on this particular listing. I did it 2 different days before I got the person, you know, that we wanted to take. But that's what I've been doing so that I didn't have to show all these, you know, individual people, multiple days, multiple hours. And if I were to do an open house, that's the same process I would use for it.
Okay.
I saw it.
Oh, good.
No, I was gonna say I saw what Ross's comment, postal requirements on the front door. I did that as well with my listings. I had it bright red, laminated, and also had it in the agent instructions, as well as showing time. When they schedule the appointment, it sent them the same thing.
Yep. Very good. Liz, open houses or perspective?
You know, that's what Kimber said. That's exactly what my sellers
Didn't want.
are afraid of. You know, that people aren't going to respect the rules
Mm-hmm.
because and then what are you going to do? Okay, you don't let them in, but there's then are you doing your seller a disservice, you know, because you're not letting them in? Or if they see one person walk in, then someone's going to follow and someone's going to, well, they're not wearing a mask. Why do I, you know, that's the fear that that sellers have had. And it is, I mean, the only thing that I can even think of is having like a check-in station at the door, you know.
You have to.
Do you have a mask? Like there's an agent inside and then there's a check-in station at the door.
Right.
You have a mask? Nope, you're not coming in. Or, you know, but even then you're, you know, you're a jerk. You know, people see you as, well, that you're not.
Yeah, I get it. You can have it. 22 that I think it's part of that's going to go away, right? As we acquire some more.
Yeah, because there's the antsy right now of let me get out of the house.
And you're hearing interest rate, you got to get it, and you got to get locked in.
Well, and I think we could do the same thing, because when retail opened back up, I remember going out and there were stores, I can't remember if it was a Marshall's or Ross, something. They weren't letting people in without a mask. But if you didn't have a mask, they had a stack of masks there and they were charging $1. So, okay, if you want to come in the store, give me your $1. Here's your mask. And
There you go, Ross.
I can do the same thing. I could see doing the same thing at an open house. Well, I don't have a mask. Okay, no problem. Here's one for you. And leave $1 in that tip jar. You know, we're going to donate it to whatever.
Yeah. Or I can pay for them next time. Yeah, I do think if you're going to require it, I do think you should have some available.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carla
And
asked,
I would tell you, if you're doing an open house in a certain price point in a certain area, you better be prepared. Like Kimber said, is hold on, right? You could have a wave of people that want to come see it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What are your final thoughts? Share with us great information, solid, foundational, good information. What's your final thoughts? What do you want the group to take away?
I would say that 2020 can still be a phenomenal year. Even though, you know, people are, again, you see people saying, I want to go to sleep and wake up when 2021 gets here. You know, everything that could go wrong has. We're halfway through the year. The second half, as it pertains to real estate, can still be extremely positive. The fundamentals work. Stay in contact with people, provide value, educate people. Don't be tied to a commission or what you're making off the deal. Give people good advice that's for them. You know, I can't tell you the number of times, well, because I have the heart of investor, a number of times I tell people, don't sell this house. No, we're going to lease it. Yeah, I'd make more money if they sold it, but they're going to make more money in the long run by keeping that property and building a legacy for their family. So put people's financial interests ahead and the business will come. It really will.
I think we have a term for that. That's fiduciary, right? We don't talk about that enough. Good stuff. All right, Liz, what else?
to follow on that a little bit is what I would say is that one of the things that I always follow in my business is the idea of customer service, ridiculously high standards, right? And customer service. So Ritz-Carlton, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom's. Those are the three businesses that I make it a point to resemble in my business. So like what Angela said, don't always give them good advice, right? How many times do we see double lines coming out of Chick-fil-A? It seems like, from the moment they open to the moment they close, we have double lines. It's chicken. It's just chicken. And the fact that the customer service that they provide to people is what is so amazing about their process. And I've never been to Chick-fil-A where I was in the line more than 7 minutes, even though they're double lines wrapped around 2 blocks or whatever the case may be. And they always have an amazing smile on their face. And it's always, it's my pleasure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. What I would say is stand out with your customer service. And that starts with putting like you said, your fiduciary. You put the interests of your client above anyone else's, including your own. I understand we all have bills to pay. I get it. And yet if that client sees that dollar sign in your eye, they can smell it from a mile away. And that's why, they end up, those that aren't ready, they come back, is because they felt that you cared about their best interests. So for me, I would say that's what I would say. Read into the Ritz-Carlton, read into, Nordstrom's. I think Nordstrom's is struggling financially right now, but the concept of their customer service, and Chick-fil-A, those stories. And I will tell you that it's not just for show. My husband, he works for Salesforce, and Chick-fil-A was one of his accounts. And so he's been to the headquarters. They have their customer service to them is so important. They have built a Chick-fil-A restaurant inside of their headquarters, and people go there to train customer service. Like, that's how important it is to them.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing setup that they have. So that's what I would say. Keep your customer service, even if you think that's not my job. Well, just freaking do it anyway, because they're going to remember that you did it, and that's customer service, and they're going to come back to you, and they're going to send other people to you. Even if that means sweeping a floor, even if it means emptying out the trash can, moving stuff, whatever that means. I've done it all, and I will continue to do it all, because that's what we do for our clients, and they remember that customer service.
That's awesome. All right, great stuff. The information, here's what I heard. Care calls are still, call your database and your people and check in on them. Lost leads, fallen leads they're still an opportunity if you go back and work them as well. Get there with a servant heart and tell the truth, right? Even when they don't want to hear the truth, but the truth will serve them the best. Follow up is key. You need a systematic system to follow up with them. I guess you guys could always say, when we're always working on that. Do not be attached to the outcome, right? You're there to serve and help people along the way. And yes, we're currently in a seller's market, but the pendulum is about ready to swing. We don't know exactly when, yet it's going to swing.
Right.
It's a temporary seller's market.
Yes, I would agree. All right, awesome stuff. Hang with us a little bit. We got a couple other guests, but thank you guys so much for serving and sharing great information. You can stay on, or you can peace out, whatever you want to do. But good hearing from you and talk to it. And you listen to Nimesh, because you need to do command, Liz. You need to sit here and listen to this. All right, Nimesh, what do you got?
I can actually bust out her report here real quick if we really want to call her out.
Oh, don't put her on the spot.
I won't do that to you right now.
All right, Nimesh, what do you got for us?
All right. Hey, guys, it's been a couple of weeks. I apologize. So there is a little bit of a laundry list. All right. First and foremost, something that we really need to spread the word on, even though we've come to the conclusion a couple of weeks ago, and that is that compliance, our transition into compliance is not going to be until after the busy summer season. All right. Chad just come to the conclusion that with all the activity that's going on in the market right now, it would just kind of be a little bit too much to get everybody to move over compliance into command while the market is so hot and all our transactions are coming through. So we will postpone the move over to compliance and command until after the peak summer season, okay? That means that you will currently still utilize dotloop, and you will do compliance in dotloop. So documents and compliance submission still stays in dotloop, okay? Everybody got that? It's a little important. All right. Second, leading on to that is the commissions tab. If for those of you that don't realize, it has been active since February. All right. Fully active. You should be submitting for your compliance request within command. It is way easier than a green sheet. And to follow that up now is that we are going to very soon phase out the green sheet. Okay. So the commissions tabs you need to start using now. That way you're familiar with it. It is way easier. It's pretty much preloaded for you. So start that transition if you have not already, because Jared and Krista are already accepting those. They are taking a priority on those, and green sheets will be no more very soon. All right. Speaking of the commissions tab, a little bit of housekeeping, which works out perfectly for us when we're fully getting into it. For those that you currently use, that have currently used it, the add agent button is going to get a little bit better specifically for your teams. When you want to add an agent now, you don't have to worry about the units anymore, because I was throwing it off a little bit where you had to adjust the units. Now it's simply going to be add agent. You stick your buyer's agent in there or team leader in the Rainmaker, whichever way. Just make sure the commissions add up correctly. That's the only thing that you have to worry about. And the second thing is, for all agents, the add item button, where we do deductions, bonuses, concessions, all that good stuff, referrals. It used to be a tiny link at the bottom of the page. That is going to now move up, and it's going to be a larger button for you. So that's going to definitely help. Okay, so that's the commissions tab, all very important. Export all is now live for your contacts. Okay, so now you can export them all in its entirety for labels, to make a sheet, anything you want, to have a paper list, whatever you guys like to do. You can now export all contacts. That is completely live now. All right, let's see here. Custom lead sources is finally coming soon. Okay, so you don't have to pick off of their wonky list that they have right now. You can make your own lead sources to apply to your contacts on where these leads came from. Okay, so fully customizable in the next week or two. All right, let's see here. Also, in-office poll. We're going to do a poll on Facebook very soon about how you guys, to gauge y'all's interest on in-office training classes again. Okay, because we're starting to contemplate that. We may be doing that pretty soon here, obviously with social distancing in place and limitations on how many we have. But we are starting to now consider that. And so just to gauge y'all's vision on that, your thought process on that, I was going to put out a poll on Facebook to see how you guys like it, regardless of where we are moving in that direction. Okay. Last but not least, hey guys, May Market Center vital signs are in. All right. And I was just looking through them earlier today. We have done better than March and April. We did see some growth. Okay. Very little growth, but we have seen growth. Average opportunities went up by 1. So now as a market center, we're averaging 6 opportunities per agent. We do want to grow that. Definitely get your leads in opportunities. Our average contacts did come down a bit. I think we took on a few new agents. That does skew that, so I'm not worried about that one too much. Our smart plans did go up by 4. Four new agents started using smart plans. Better than 0. All right. We do want to work on those. I think June's numbers will be a lot better because we did have the 3 classes gearing, focusing on these 3 items. I am going to do them again. Okay. Since we're still in the first half of the month, tomorrow, next Tuesday, and next Thursday, I believe will be contacts and database, opportunities and sales pipeline, and again, covering smart plans. Okay. So make sure you look out for those always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right. 9:30 usually in the morning. All right. So that's the tech update.
All right, cool.
Have anything
Good
else?
update. All right, Celebrity, what do you got?
Hi, thank you guys. A couple of things. First, I did a Title 101 class yesterday and I had a great time. I came in office, so what Nimesh was saying, I was there by myself. But that's okay. I enjoy your facility. It's very nice. So I'm really excited. We actually have a couple of things that we would love to offer you if you are letting people come into the office. One of which is we have our underwriters that are now going back out and we're teaching classes, CE classes. So that's something to offer as well. So I'll definitely get with Nimesh to put ourselves on your calendar and give you guys a whole new slew. We just got 8 new classes that not only would our underwriters be able to teach, but as well as some of our sales persons, including myself. And Celebrity Title is now a certified CE school as well. So we're putting in to track some of the classes that we want to propose that we feel will bring value to all of the different brokerages. More along the lines of marketing, what our marketing team does and is very successful doing. I don't know if all of you know, but we're very good at Facebook. We're very good at Instagram. Our team is very good at marketing themselves on social media. So that's a class that we're putting together as Celebrity Title, and we'd love to offer that to you guys once you guys all feel comfortable with us coming in. So I'll definitely get with Nimesh and I'll get with Yana and just make sure that we're on the table for that one. The other thing I wanted to go over was a few things. The extension of the stay-at-home orders are in place. So once again, Celebrity Title is offering the e-notarization is extended to June 30th, but that also includes not only just the RON. Last time I spoke about it, it was only the remote online notarization, excuse me. but now it also includes the remote ink notarization. So just to let you guys know, that has been extended. And as long as it keeps on bumping, I will continue to have Celebrity Title bump that fee as well. We will send out a flyer to have it added to your Facebook page. So that's something that I want to let you guys know. Listing agreements. I know we just talked about the market. I heard you guys talking about the market with Mesh. I will just say that Celebrity Title has seen a huge influx recently in listing agreements between May 15th and June 10th today. The amount of business that we're getting. So that tells me that you guys are out there doing something, that people are selling. So I just want to encourage you to keep on pushing through and going out there, whether you're doing it remotely. I know people are doing like remote listing appointments, or if you're actually going in person, please be safe. If you need any type of mask, let us know. We always are willing to provide. But I do want to encourage you that we are seeing a huge influx. And as far as our sales team is going, we're having a killer month. Like June is really hot. So I think that you guys are really, I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys in particular, because when you do well, we do well. So I think that it's going to be a good month. And I definitely think that the market is turning around and moving. The other thing I want to ask, this is an ask, so if you do, I just put my information up there. You guys can text me or email me. Celebrity Title sales team, we started a book club. We actually started with this book right here, The Raving Fan. I highly encourage anyone to read it if you haven't already. I know you guys all love, your Keller Williams books, but this one's a really short read, 130 pages. It takes less than an hour to read. It's a storybook, but it talks about service. So if you guys are interested in joining a book club, or if you think that's something you may want to do, if you want to reach out to me and let me know, I would love to put one together for your office, and then we can all get together. Celebrity Title will host it, and we'll make sure that we all have a discussion about moving forward and learning new things. So this one is very good because it talks about service, and it talks about how you don't have to always be the cheapest person in the market if you're providing the service. And I think that really does align with Keller Williams. Keller Williams isn't the cheapest brokerage, but they definitely provide the highest level of service. So that's the best thing. So if anybody is interested in this, please let me know, and I will set this up for you guys. I just want to get a consensus on what you guys are wanting or needing. If it's not something that you guys are all interested in, then we move on and try something else. But it's definitely something I'm offering. So that's
right. Okay, good. We have Dale. Dale's here, but he had to come to my seat. So you
Dale.
can jump. All right, go ahead.
Hey, Dale.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm a little technology challenged, just a little. So Chad's laughing, but he let me use his computer so we could get on board. Some things going on this week in the mortgage industry. Interest rates ticked up a little bit last week, but according to some of the surveys out there, mortgage applications were up almost 13% more than last year. There are people buying houses. You all need to be out there doing what you can to put yourself in front of people ready to buy a house. Some crazy numbers right now. When you add the low rates in there, that indicates that people are going to be interested in refinancing their home. Letitia can tell me that they, as a title company, probably put precedence over contract purchase business versus refinances. Maybe she can't tell you that. I will tell you that as a mortgage lender, that we are going to prioritize that purchase business is put in front of refinances. We just came out with a note yesterday to all of our loan officers that between the dates of June the 21st until June the 28th, we as a mortgage lender are not going to be putting loans for refinances through our closing department and disclosure department. The reason for that is that we are wanting to make sure that contracts get closed on time. Right now, the volume of loans that's going on is about 3 times the normal volume per year, on average per year. When you add that appraisers are going out to do appraisals for not just purchase business, but refinance business, title companies are handling those additional transactions, mortgage lenders, closing department, surveyors, you name everybody involved into a transaction, that adds to the capacity. And we can't have people sitting around in slow times waiting for business to come in. And so all lenders are looking to hire up and staff up for this, but we're just not in a position, anybody is not in a position now to where things are going to be able to close in 21 to 30 days. I want you to know this and go into it with the expectations that we're going to do the best that we can.
but set the expectations for your buyers, for your sellers, that there is a lot going on in the mortgage industry right now. People need to go back to work, and we're required to verify they've been on their jobs at least 30 days in order for us to move forward and approve those loans. So keeping that in mind, contact all the people involved in the transaction, from title companies to lenders to appraisers, to know what's going on in the market. What can I expect? And set those expectations with all of your buyers. That's what I've got.
All right, we're social distancing. You see how we made that work. Hey, I appreciate you guys being on today. Hopefully you got some great value. And yes, Nimesh?
One more thing I forgot to mention,
Yeah.
just because it's a little early, but I do want to let people know on it. Bold Pivot is going to come back around. I don't know if it's been mentioned yet. It was recently announced July 14th. So if you missed it the first time around, or maybe want to do it again, it's going to start July 14th. It's again still at $99, 4 weeks, 2 hours. We'll get into it more, but just keep that in mind. It will restart on July 14th, Bold Pivot. Online.
Yeah, good stuff. We still got lots of things virtually. Don't forget kwsw25.com has a lot of information. And we're looking at easing back into the classroom. We're going to do it correctly. We're going to handle it. You're going to see some classes, and yet we will do an Eventbrite, and we're going to lock in the registration because we can only handle so many, and yet we'll stream it as well. So be looking for some information. Of course, I'd rather speak in front of a room instead of this computer and yelling and screaming at it, and especially looking at myself. I'm tired of looking at myself. Yet I get over it, right? So we'll move some things along as well. Thank you so much for being here. Having a great day. Lots of opportunity. Thank you, Angela and Liz. Great panel. See you guys soon.
Thank you.
See you later, everyone.